Hey guys, it's Amanda with Tiny Colossus Creations. I'm actually back at home right now. My first video, I was actually dog sitting for my cousin, so I was recording that one from their dining room table. As you can tell, I'm still a little bit hoarse. This is actually 2 days after my first video, so it's Monday now. I recorded that one on Saturday. Um, but I actually was just coming to you today with actually a product review. So I have heard a lot of good and bad things about Paint Tool SAI. Um, it is a Japanese, Chinese, I'm not actually sure what its origin is, painting program. And from my understanding, it's like a combination of Photoshop and Corel Painter. So, you know, I've heard a lot of good and bad things about it, and I finally decided that it was about time I did my own examination of it, my own review. And when I found out that they actually have a free trial for like 15 or 30 days or something like that, I just decided that, okay, why not, right? Um, so here I am. As you can tell, I've got it open right here, and Um, actually, I don't think I can see my cursor on here, can I? Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is interesting. I guess let's just go ahead and give it a whirl. See what all this baby can do. All right, so I think I'm going to draw my original character Rhian from my Assassin's Creed fan fiction, Some of Memories. Let's start off with. I'm just going to do a portrait of maybe her looking at somebody. So let's start off with how to draw the head. So basically when I start off, I usually just start off with the shape of the face and the curve of the cheek, and then I'll kind of draw in the cranium back here. The cranium is that portion of your skull that's kind of back here. It connects with your head, and basically it's what holds your brain. But it also provides a great line for where you want to put the eyes, and it also lets you kind of pinpoint where everything else is going to lie. So let's do it like this. So if you guys aren't into Assassin's Creed fan fiction at all, Some of Memories is actually probably my most popular fan fiction. Basically, it features Connor Kenway. Oh, this is interesting. My erase button is an eyedropper tool, and the other one doesn't do anything. All right. Anyway, basically, it features Connor Kenway. Okay, so somehow or another, it didn't make me click to change that color, but it automatically chose it for me. I don't think I like that very much. Um, anyway, so Connor Kenway, he's the protagonist in Assassin's Creed 3, right? Um, well, for those of you who know Ubisoft's games, um, they also made the Prince of Persia series, and in Prince of Persia, um, the main plot device thing is this dagger of time, to where it controls the sands of time, and um, which basically allows the player to travel back a few minutes or a few seconds back in time, or fast forward time, um, what have you. But in the movie, they actually took that a bit further. The Jake Gyllenhaal Disney movie, which actually, comparatively speaking, wasn't terrible. Um, anyway, so at the end of the third game, the Empress of Time, Kylena, and this is kind of old news, and I'm sorry if this is a spoiler alert. So spoiler alert: Empress of Time, Kylena, basically takes the dagger of time and leaves the prince who you never find out his name in the games, but she leaves the prince, and takes the dagger to someplace else. She even says that there are other worlds out there and stuff, and so I took that as an opening to feature that in my Assassin's Creed stories. So it's featured in a couple of them so far. My unpublished unpublished Assassin's Creed 2 fic, one of them at least. It's featured in some of Memories. It's featured in, a couple of them. One of my Assassin's Creed 1 fics, it features pretty heavily in my fan fiction series. All right, I want to bring that down a little bit, bring her shoulder down a little bit, and just let her be kind of looking over her shoulder here. But anyway, so Connor Kenway is actually tasked with retrieving this dagger after it's been stolen, because they think that is a piece of Eden. And so, the first chapter, 2 chapters, he actually is caught in the shipwreck and stabbed by the dagger, and is transported back in time to his grandfather, Edward Kenway's time. And basically, the fic is about them getting to know each other, and part of that actually is that they pick up, during a raid, they pick up prisoners from this ship that they have captured, and in order to kind of, replenish their own population, I guess, they take prisoners. And one of those prisoners, who actually battles Edward almost to the death, he actually stabs her, and her name, the name that she gives them is Dristan, which is basically the Welsh version of Tristan, like Tristan and Isolde, right? But she ends up becoming one of their friends, and a love interest for Edward. I actually started writing this before the game was released. I started writing this fic before the game was released. So, she is Welsh. She has red hair, blue-green eyes. I think the actual description that I gave her in the book was seafoam green eyes, which, if you're familiar with Copic markers at all, is kind of this light blue-green color. Okay, so spacebar is... Alright, so control is to move it around, spacebar is to move the entire canvas. I like that. And then control... Okay, so Alt space is to rotate, and then zoom and zoom out. Alright, cool. So, I'm just sketching her in right here. She is Welsh. She actually is a bastard child, and depending on the sources that you read, depending on whether you were married or not, or your parents were married or not, or rather, it could be very disgraceful to have a child out of wedlock. And unfortunately for Rhian, she was born out of wedlock, and this is the early 1700s, late 1600s. So depending on which sources you read, and unfortunately my sources aren't very clear, it could or could not be a very bad thing. So, and I guess it depends on your community also. but the community into which she was born was not very accepting of what they called bastards. The literal definition of a bastard was a child born out of wedlock, and she was born out of wedlock. And because she was born out of wedlock, Rhian was basically stigmatized, saying that, oh, her mother must have been a whore, she'll be a whore too. And this, it's not true. She's actually, because she was called a whore and worthless, a bastard all her life, she actually became very opposed to basically, the anything to do with quote sexual freedom unquote. So she's very conservative in her values, just because she would never wish that sort of thing upon another human being. As such, when Edward first starts showing an interest in her, she does not take it very well, because Edward is married at the time. And she's like, I really want this guy. I like him a lot. And I hate that he's married, because that means that I can't be with him. But at the same time, I'm also not going to break up him and his wife, even though his wife hasn't contacted him in months. Alright, so here we go. I've blocked in her hair and her face and stuff, and she has very curly hair. So when they first met, she was actually disguised as a boy, because she actually enlisted in the British Navy to follow her brother to sea. Her brother is named Cadell, and she basically idolizes him, and did not want to be separated from him, because he joined up with the Navy and stuff. She didn't want to be separated from him, because he was her best friend and everything. But they ended up getting separated anyway, put onto different ships and everything. And she actually was her ship was captured by a Spanish ship, I guess 2 years prior to the story starting. And when she meets them, they actually kept her alive and didn't kill her, because she speaks multiple languages, which is a little bit like me. That's where I based her skill off of, was that I was learning multiple languages and I wanted to play with those, and so I kind of gave her that skill also. But it's also, especially in those days, and even today, if you're in trade or anything, you got to learn multiple languages. It makes you a lot more lucrative. So, makes you a lot more valuable. Not that I would know anything about that, but okay, what did I just do? Okay, so all right, so I've put her together, and I'm just gonna go over her with some color here. But anyway, yeah, that's Rhian. She is probably actually one of my favorite characters, just because of her attitude. She's the type who doesn't really take any guff off of anybody, and at the same time, she can be very insecure, which makes her very interesting to write. She's also one of those types where it's like survival at all costs. That is what survival is, what she does for a living. That's actually a quote from her from the book. Survival is what I do for a living. And and she's very interesting to write. Just it gives me a chance to step out of myself and step into a character who is maybe not, I mean, she's just not perfect, you know. She is not a Mary Sue. She knows basically who she is, but who she is constantly gets challenged, and um you know, what she believes is constantly challenged by the people and events around her that are taking place around her. And I think that how a character rises to meet those challenges and overcome those challenges is part of what makes them so interesting. Okay, so she has very curly hair, by the way. And I hope that I show that here, you know, to a good extent. It's tough to draw curly hair. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of tough. So her part has kind of changed here. I was drawing it. I kind of originally started out like, okay, how am I gonna have this hair lay, and how do I want it to look? And then I decided that she was going to be. She actually has it down for once, and maybe it fell out of its hair tie or something like that. So um, it's actually kind of blowing in the wind a little bit. Maybe a sea breeze, you know, who knows? Maybe they're out on the ocean somewhere, actually, you know, sailing the jackdaw and whatever. Um, she's got this curly red hair and these green eyes, and I've drawn her a few times. She's actually, like I said, she's one of my favorite characters to date that I've created to date. Um, and I love drawing her. Um, I love writing her. um, she's just very interesting to me, I think. So I hope that you guys like her as much as I do. Alright, so far SAI is fairly intuitive. I'm still not sure if I like it as much as I like Photoshop, but then again, I've also been using Photoshop for so long that it's kind of tough to say, okay, you know, I'm using this right out of the box. I'm not sure if I like it or not. You know, it's tough to say without further review. So, speaking of further review, let me just go ahead and keep playing with this, and I'll get back to you. Alright, so let's see what all we're doing here. Alright, so I need to put in her clothes. She wears basically whatever clothes are on hand. Um, that's part of being a pirate, but she does prefer green a lot, um, just because it kind of shows off her hair. It really emphasizes it kind of clashes, but it really kind of emphasizes the redness of it. And she kind of likes her red hair. So, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have not known very many redheads that I've liked. Uh, but that's more just my brother's bad taste in girlfriends. So all joking aside though, um, you know, Rhian is probably one of the few Just give me the few redheads that I actually like. So I can't actually figure out how to add these colors to my swatches. You know, I guess I'll have to figure that out later as I start hacking my head off again. Okay, so I can't figure out how to do the swatches thing over here, but I was able to pull up the scratch pad thing, and that should let me choose my colors pretty quickly, if nothing else. So let's go ahead and do some shading on here. Now that I've got my base colors down, I think I'm going to do, give her kind of a, I guess I think I want to do kind of a warmer scheme, maybe. I don't know. Rhian, where are you in this picture? Okay, so I think she's going to be kind of on the sea, so let's give it kind of a warmer scheme. Okay, so I honestly have no idea what's going on here right now. And I'm not entirely sure how to turn it off. So, this is going to be fun. So basically what my brush is currently doing is that it is taking whichever color is the most prominent in that area of the painting and kind of just taking it and running with it and blending it. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's very painterly, but at the same time, it's kind of annoying because I can't just work in with the base color or a shadow or whatever. So, it's kind of irritating me a little bit. Let me see if I can do anything. Maybe take down the persistence a little bit. Okay, so persistence, taking down the persistence a bit did the trick. But yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm sure it would be very handy if you are a painter by nature. It's definitely a lot easier to do like the blending and stuff, but it's also kind of to your detriment if you're not used to it. Let me see if I can get used to it here. But so turning the dilution up kind of allowed me to work in with more of that that original color. And I'm kind of getting back on track now here, but I'm still not sure how I feel about the whole the whole desaturation of colors thing that was going on there. I think it's going to make it a little difficult to actually get those hard, clear shadows. But I will keep playing with this and let you know. Alright, so I don't know if you can hear this or not. First impression, first very early impression, it's interesting, definitely. It's going to take a lot of playing around with it before I'm actually able to do a whole lot. It has a very it is a very different feel from Photoshop, which I kind of expected it to be, but it's a little bit more different than I was expecting. And I'm kind of wondering, you know, what they were thinking when they made it the way that it is. You know, I mean, I understand that it is its own program, and I think that given enough time, I could definitely get used to using it. It would certainly be a lot less expensive than Photoshop. But that being said, it is also, I really do not like the way that the colors blend almost a little bit too easily. I mean, like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing that they blend easily. It gives it a very natural sort of feel to it, but at the same time, it's also a little bit unnatural to me. As a digital artist who has worked on Photoshop for so long, Photoshop and Autodesk Sketchbook, and Clip Studio Paint and stuff, you know, it's very painterly, very much like, and you know, it's like I've even worked on oil paints, like canvases and everything. I have done painting on canvases and everything, and even for that, you know, this is a very unnatural sort of feeling. That being said, I am picking it up very quickly. It is very intuitive. I still have to figure out all the hotkeys. I need to figure out all the shortcuts and the hotkeys and stuff before I'll be able to actually use it with any sort of speed or finesse. And I'm not sure why this section right here that I want to be, there we go. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. I'm not sure why this section of the blending layer is not getting darker like I want it to. So I'm going to have to just keep playing with this, and it's kind of driving me nuts. You know, so I mean, the rest of this is blending just fine. Why is that one section not changing to the darker color that I want it to change to? So, you know, it's why? Just why, Sai? Why? You know, it has a lot of flexibility, and I do kind of like the fact that you can get a lot of very subtle shadows in here, but I don't like the okay, so that's the dilution that I'm having issues with. I don't like the so far I don't like the way that it forces your colors to blend. Like if you were actually creating an oil painting or something, yeah, you would have some color blending in there, but you know, depending on how much paint you had on your brush, you would be able to change that with ease. You know, you could vary how well you wanted, how hard you wanted your lines to be, and how intense you wanted your paint to be, and you just basically would layer it over itself. So, you know, I am not entirely certain how well I like this. It's definitely going to take some getting used to, and we'll have to see if I decide to stick with this. So yeah, let me just finish up this piece, and we'll see whether or not I give it a stamp of approval. Okay? Okay, so you've got me back now, and as you see, I just finished my drawing of Rhian. Overall, once I kind of got used to using SAI, it wasn't so bad. But I think I would definitely use this. I would definitely recommend this more if you wanted to do some quick blending. It's definitely better if you are a little bit more used to dragging the paint around the canvas than you would be were you just in Photoshop using one of their regular brushes. So all in all, I think SAI is actually so far a pretty good program. I definitely want to play around with it more, and I will definitely consider actually buying it in the future, buying the full version. So for all of you Photoshop purists out there, it is definitely worth taking a look into it. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Paint Tool SAI, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. This is Amanda, over and out.